All right, before we start talking about 12 Angry Men, I need to know which Star Trek shirt should I wear? The blue one or the green one?
Which one's the blue one?
What do you mean?
I can't tell the difference. I'm colorblind. But I like the dark gray one.
What's your favorite movie?
Arrival.
Arrival. You saw that in like 2016, right?
Yeah.
Okay, my two favorites, Shining, Shutter Island. Saw Shutter Island in the theaters 2010. I probably saw The Shining 2016, 2015 around that same time. And I don't know about you, but kind of like an old dog learning new tricks. I feel like once you found your favorites pretty early on. Like I have my top five, maybe even top 10. It's a list I've had for years. And like when I see movies today, I don't think I'm going to see my next new favorite. And then something from 1957 comes along for me and I'm like, this is like this is like top 5, top 3. Like I love everything about this.
You can't prove he didn't get to the door. Sure, you can take all the time, hobble around the room, but you can't prove it.
This whole movie is everything I want in a movie, from length to storytelling to characters to simplicity to isolation. I love it.
Yeah, I really liked the movie as well. I want to point out that, so far in Audience Cut, this is the second time that our patrons have decided the movie. And both times, we've both really enjoyed the movie. So let's give them a round of applause.
Oh yeah,
Let's
thank
give
you.
them a round of
Thank you. You
applause.
guys are the best. Thanks.
It's probably not a big surprise to anyone because of the stuff that we watch here on the channel, but our audience skews older than typical YouTube. Like, there's not a whole bunch of kids watching our stuff if you look at our demographics and our analytics. And because of that, our audience has been able to show us a lot of movies, such as this one, that we haven't seen or really even heard of. I really enjoyed the movie too, but I think, I wouldn't go as far as to say it's my favorite movie or anything, so I definitely want to hear what you have to say about it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say like favorite movie, but it's like after we watched it, I'm like, I need to watch this again. So I took your copy, went home, and I watched it, and I kind of had it on repeat at night, just after work, after gym, whatever, just like taking notes and everything. And then after I gave yours back the day before, I ordered it on Amazon, same 4K. So I watched it again. I'll probably get into the special features after this, but I just wanted to sit with the magic, you know what I mean? Because I always talk about like wanting to watch the special features, but kind of like the saying about dissecting a joke. You know what I mean? I don't want it to kill it for me yet. I kind of just like how it is. It's the simplest thing ever, but it's also so detailed. And it's like every time like I had to rewatch it and like I noticed something that would come off and play later, I'm like, oh shit. And it's like, oh, that makes sense for that character. Why he did that there? Because later on, it's like, oh, it's so much better on a rewatch. Because I remember when we first watched it, you just see the 12 jurors, you don't think anything. And then on the rewatch, when you're seeing all 12 just sitting there silent, it's like they all stick out so colorfully because you know all about them.
At the beginning, when you're just getting to know these characters, first of all, there's a lot of really long, takes, which is nice to see, but isn't necessarily as surprising for a movie of this time because I think back then they had a lot more longer takes because actors were more used to that, I think, than they are today. But all the camera angles are kind of just like eye level, flat, nothing too out of the ordinary. And then as the movie goes on and the tension ramps up, the camera shots also reflect that. And we get more like lower angles looking up at the actors. The one that we loved right on the guy's face, on the old man's face.
He didn't change his vote. I did. Ha!
Yeah, so the cinematography does a great job of setting the tone throughout the movie as well, and that's something that is hard to notice on a first watch because you don't see it coming. But yeah, I really enjoyed the technical aspects for a movie that's just 12 guys in a room. They did a great job with all of that camera work. Obviously, the choice to have it in black and white.
We don't get anyone's names. There's like such creative little things, like when they're doing the check-in list.
Well, you'd think that at least air condition these places. What's your names?
Oh, it's, that one, yeah. Thank you very much.
It works. I love it. It's like none of those details matter. Just the story.
As far as the performances, I thought all 12 of them did a great job, and they all, as far as the writing, have like their own characters. Everyone kind of has their own unique spin, and the performances mimic that, because even if you write the characters to be different, if you get all 12 of the same performances, it's gonna, not work.
I would say also perfectly casted. Like I'm trying to picture any other actor being juror number 7.
I honestly think the guy's guilty. Couldn't change my mind if you talked for 100 years.
Yeah, I think Henry Fonda is probably my favorite performance. Obviously, he's given like the most to do, debatably, with a few of the other ones, so it's easy for him to stand out, and he has kind of the good guy role from the beginning. But he also has my favorite moment of the movie, the knife on the table.
Where did that come from?
It's the same night.
Favorite moment of the movie. The movie doesn't have a lot of, obviously, no action, not a lot of dramatics, but that was like the one moment where it was like a movie moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it worked. It didn't seem out of place.
Yeah, like the few times where also everyone in the room goes, "Oh!" You know.
Yeah.
I think Juror 3 is probably one of my favorite performances. Like he's so great.
Now listen, this guy's trying to make you believe things that aren't so. The kid said he was going to kill him, and he did kill him.
Yeah, Lee Cobb, he's the perfect foil for Henry Fonda because it's kind of them two as the main forces of like Henry Fonda wants him to be, or thinks he's not guilty from the beginning. And then you have Lee Cobb, juror number 3, who says guilty at the beginning with everyone else, but is like the one pushing it, and every time people are flipping, he's the one getting mad at him.
We've been over it again. The boy in the gray flannel suit here is bouncing backwards and forwards like a tennis ball.
And it made me think like, oh fuck, would that be me? Would that be like, oh, I got to work tomorrow. I got to be at, it's like, God, man, this makes me think. I love that.
One of my favorite parts of the movie is the ending, because I had started to grow afraid that they were going to do a twist like it was juror number 8, or the kid gets found not guilty and then the juror number 8 somehow finds out that he actually was guilty. Just something. But no, it's just they leave and the two introduce themselves to each other and then they all walk away and that's it. It reinforces that the plot of the movie and the whole point of the movie isn't about the crime or the charge. It's not a murder mystery movie. It's about just the jury and how a jury functions and works. And I've never been on a jury, but I could tell obviously some of this was obviously dramatized. I mean, the movie's 90 minutes, even if you say that there was some time lapse that we didn't see, even though it seems pretty real time.
It does.
But let's just say that they were in there for 4 hours, whatever. Like, for a murder trial, that's still an extremely short jury. Like, juries are in there for days on murder trials. So putting that dramatization aspect aside, it's just great, the examination of, this is what it's like, when you're kind of dealing with somebody's life in the balance, like you said.
Was Boney not guilty? 1.
Right.
11 guilty, 1 not guilty.
So it opens up, the courtroom goes in, and there's a group of people cheering. I don't know if that group of people cheering has anything to do with our court case, because it's still happening, so you'd assume the lawyers and stuff are still in there. But in my mind, I'm laughing, because they think the prosecution knocked it out of the park. It's like, the defense barely did anything at the end of this. It's like, the jury voted not guilty. What? Because it made it seem like so obvious that it's like he's guilty. And at the end, they voted not guilty. What? One scene, no dialogue. That kid does such a great job. And he looks like a kid. It's not like 27-year-old Tom Holland playing a 16-year-old.
Yeah.
He looks like an actual, real 18-year-old kid. And like he has this great look where he looks sad. And then there's a great transition shot where it's the kid's face, and then it fades into the room for the rest of the movie. Like it's like the fate of this kid is being decided in this room. Like cool little camera storytelling like that. It's like this kid's entire fate is happening at this table.
And I loved early on how, everyone talks about, this kid's basically like dead to rights. But then when you actually break down the evidence, none of it is really that great. And that kind of like does a great job of like piece by piece going through why it's not good. There are some things that are kept from us that like we don't know until they talk about it, to where it's like, if you had known that before, maybe you wouldn't have thought as strongly. Just information like the train going by or like stuff related to that, where it's like until they talk about it, you don't know that. But at the same time, a jury might not be thinking about that until it gets brought up. So yeah, not a problem or anything there, but I just found it very interesting.
Yeah, like we get like the base details, like old man heard like I'm gonna kill you, and saw him run down the stairs. Lady saw it through the window of the passing yellow train, where you can see it through it at night. And then like Henry Fonda does a really good job of, and the old man too really brings out those details.
Since the woman saw the killing through the last 2 cars, we can assume that the body hit the floor just as the train went by.
Like we get those details, but then we go deeper.
Yeah, and I love when they brought out the full blueprint of the apartment and stuff, and they're like, all right, this is how long it would take, and they start walking around the room with a limp, and the juror number 3 is like, you can walk around here with a limp all you want.
Also, juror number 1, like the foreman, like our straight man, like he literally has no feelings towards. We don't get any of his feelings at all.
Yeah.
Like he's just like, oh, guilty, and then
Yeah, you don't even know why he thinks that.
he's like,
yeah, he's guilty.
Yeah, guilty. And sidebar, he's a really great scene. Like, all right, we'll take another vote. Juror number 1. Oh, right, that's me. Like
Yeah.
just little human things like that. Like, oh, right, that's me.
Juror number 10 starts going in on the suspect being a immigrant.
One of them.
Yeah, and starts going in on it, and I just loved the moment where one by one everyone just like walks away from him and like looks out the window or sits somewhere else. No one like was in his face, oh, you bigot, shoving him down to the floor. It's like they all just were disgusted with him and didn't want to look at him.
That's the best way to deal with it. Not even worth listening to, not even worth yelling at. Just juror number 5, who said he grew up similar to the accused, like, hey, I grew up, I play with garbage, blah, blah, blah. And like when everyone's going around giving explanations, or like, oh, we'll go around, everyone explain to juror number 8 why he's guilty. He doesn't say anything. And he said he grew up similar to the kid. And then later on, when the whole switchblade scene happens, he's the one who explains, like, no, you wouldn't use it like this. You wouldn't go like this. No, you come out like that. So it's like, everyone has that little, even if it's a small part, everyone has that little part to play.
Yeah.
Love stuff like that.
What's it all about?
Ah!
Yeah, everyone's like, oh! Like he's really gonna stab him.
He's gonna kill him. Juror number 3 is excitable, as he likes to say, like yelling at everyone, and juror number 8's the guy that's keeping them all there. So it's like he might, but like
It'd be so ridiculous.
yeah, but just in front of, and everyone thought it was gonna happen. The ending, where everyone like comes to juror 3, you have to convince us. He's like, and he just goes through like all the notes again.
I bet you $5,000 I'd remember the movies I saw. I'm telling you, everything that's gone on has been twisted.
Pulls out his wallet for some reason. Well, here, I'll show you a picture of him and his son.
Yeah, and he rips up the picture.
Yeah, before that. Yeah, then not guilty. No words said. All right, we'll take it to the judge. Everyone stands up, leaves. Juror number 8 gets his coat for him, puts it on. No words. All out. And then, oh, what's your name? Oh, see you later.
Yeah, and besides those two introducing themselves like the rest of these people, they're probably never going to see each other or talk to each other again.
What's great about it, it's like we'll never see each other ever again. Destiny was changed for a person. A person lived because of what happened in that room. They'll probably tell the story at dinner, and I'm like, but we don't get to see any of that. It's perfect. I can picture so many movies where like it's the kid, Henry Fonda, like everyone walks off, movie ends, that's great. But I'm picturing like a different movie, 2 hours. Henry Fonda's in a coffee shop, he's with his family. The boy walks in, and it's like he's working at the coffee shop. Oh, can I get you anything? It's like, don't need it. It's over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want to know. Like, part of me is like, yes, I would love to know more about all these characters, sure. But another part of me is like, I don't want to see anything.
Yeah,
it's over.
He takes a phone call, even though I know this is the 50s, so it'd have to be like a phone call in the shop, just like, yeah, I don't know how we did it, but I got off. The old man's dead because of me. And Henry Fonda's at the table. Boom.
Or that movie, yeah. They play with it in the movie too, where it's like, oh, imagine you do all this and the boy's guilty, and like there's a shot of like Henry like maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. And they play with it a little bit. They don't just let it go. They let us think about it.
Not guilty. Not guilty.
I would say this is timeless, like The Wizard of Oz. Like one of those movies where you can put it on for anybody, at any time. There's no details in there that make it feel dated.
Well, it's easy because it's just a bunch of people talking in a room. Like they'd have to kind of go out of their way to make it dated. I mean,
Exactly.
they do talk about sports and stuff, which like that stuff changes and could get dated, but I don't think any of the teams they ended up mentioning, moved or anything. So it definitely works in that regard, and also just the subject material. Like from the existence of juries and murder trials, they've always been like that, and they will continue to always be like that until, I mean, who knows? Will technology at some point, I mean, technology already...
Or just feed all the evidence into a computer.
Yeah, exactly. Like, here's the percentage guilty, who knows?
Oh, God.
But for now, it's
scary.
it's still timeless.
Well, if they did that for this, the kid would be guilty, I think.
I don't know, because I mean, it would come down to like how well trained is the machine to take into account
Would they enter the info? Old man limped in the room. Old woman wore glasses. You know what I mean?
Well, that'd be up to the defense lawyer, which in this case he was a public defender. So
that's another good point they made. It's like, this is a public defender. It's like no money in it. No, maybe he didn't try. I mean, Henry Fonda makes the comment he could just be plain stupid, which he could be, but also it could be like, the lawyer didn't try.
Yeah.
Public defender, like they don't get.
Or he could even believe that he's guilty himself.
Yeah, and didn't believe, like didn't, even think as detailed as our jury did.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know any public defenders. I've never met any. I've always just kind of thought that they get a bad rap, though. Like, everyone's just always like, oh, a public defender, you're screwed. It's like, I mean, these people are lawyers, but I've never met one, so I don't know.
I think it's like for like up and coming or starting lawyers, I think. It's like kind of like first job in the business, I would assume.
Because eyewitness testimony, I think, is like known as like the weakest thing. But like in this scenario, he had so many people against him that it does start to add up. Like, okay, one person, they could be mistaken. Two people, they could be mistaken. But like, once we get to more and more, and then the whole knife thing, and then like, still, there's questions even I have. Like, but the point is, you're not guilty until proven innocent. And that's why like so many people forget. And it's like, if there's any reasonable doubt, you can't, make the verdict guilty. And like, how did he says the knife fell out of his pocket on the way to the movie. He's like, yeah, that is suspect, but you can't convict him on that.
Yeah. Henry Fonda even makes a comment like, the boy doesn't even have to open his mouth. The burden of guilt is on the prosecution. That's in the Constitution. And it's like, yeah, there's a lot of sus details, but there's a lot of holes in all the other stuff too.
Yeah, and that's why I loved that they didn't have some type of big reveal at the end, because maybe he did do it. I don't think he did personally, if I had to guess, but because I mean, Henry Fonda does a pretty good job making the case of why it couldn't have happened, at least in the way that everyone says that it did. But there are definitely some details where it's like, if the defense had to come up with another way it happened, it would be extremely difficult. So that's a hard situation to be in. But luckily, in our justice system, you at least shouldn't have to do that. Yeah. Excellent movie. With that being said, I know that we're not the first two people to go on the internet and say this movie is excellent. I mean, it's obviously highly praised, a classic. And, while sometimes I relish getting to be a contrarian, in this case, like, I just can't do it. I don't think I'd be very interested to see someone try to make an argument like against this movie being great. So, I mean, I can understand if it's just like not your thing, but the actual quality of the movie, I can't think of any argument against it. I mean, everything it attempts to do, it is successful in my opinion. Nothing feels out of place. Nothing feels like a miss. Everything feels like they attempted something and it paid off, and it was done well. All the actors are great.
When I get excited for movies, like it's so special because it never happens. It's like I go to the movies to be disappointed. I expect disappointment. I'm just at this point where it's like I brought it up in the beginning, where I feel like I've seen the best stuff, or the stuff that I love most. Like I found all my favorite stuff. Everything that comes after that is just going to be supplemental, where it's like great stuff or good stuff, but never cracking those lists that I've made years ago.
Yeah.
But that like I found one.
Yeah.
That never happens. You know what I mean? I can't express enough how excited I am for this movie. I watched it every night leading up to this discussion. I'm not ready to let go of this movie. You know what I mean? I want to keep talking about it forever, but
just like the movie, we have to keep our runtime tight. When we thought of this premise for Audience Cut, and we decided to do the approach of, one for them, one for us in terms of the movies we're watching, because the way that we're doing this series is our patrons choose a movie every month, and then we choose a movie. And so far, the patrons have chosen 2 movies, and I've really enjoyed them both. Not that I go in expecting to not, but it's just really nice that, there's a poll to decide the movie. So, like, there's a whole poll of movies that didn't even win this vote that we haven't seen that could be just as good as this, or that we like even better. And then movies, obviously outside of that poll that we're gonna eventually throw in there, that even though it can at times feel like you've seen everything that you're gonna like, this was a reminder that that's just not true. Like, there's so much out there that we just haven't seen, and that I'm really excited to hopefully in this series primarily get to talk about and continue on. The next episode of this series will be another one of our picks, and it's actually going to be a hybrid. It's going to be audience cut and then also our Mike Flanagan series joining together as we talk about Dr. Sleep from 2019, which I haven't seen since seeing it in the theater, and we're going to be watching the director's cut, which I've never seen in full. So
I might have watched that once when I got the Blu-ray, but it's been years, so I'm excited to, especially after watching The Shining again.
yeah,
Yep, it's gonna be fun.
so that's going to be a fun time. But
this movie, I give an F.
hey, when I edited the video, what if I made this in black and white?
Well, that sounds fucking dumb.